Hello, and welcome to Legislative Report. I'm State Representative Mike Tobash of the 125th District in Berks and Schuylkill counties. Founded in 1920, the Disabled American Veterans has been dedicated to building better lives for Americans, disabled veterans, and their families. The organization offers help with many services, including transportation, rehab, education, and benefit claims. Joining me today is Bruce Kosak, Assistant State Adjunct of the Department of Pennsylvania Disabled American Veterans, and Carmen DeSanti, Chairman of the organization. They're here today to tell us about what the DAV offers veterans and how residents of our area can get the best services possible. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Well, I want to thank you, Mike, for bringing us here to talk about the DAV, the Disabled American Veterans, in the Schuylkill County and Berks County area. And as you know, with the things that are going on, the war just coming to a conclusion in Iraq, we have a lot of veterans in the area, and there is a massive outreach program going to those veterans and their families. And that's really what we would like to talk about because of the underservicing of that Higgins area, the northern Schuylkill County area. Just about your entire area, we're looking to service more veterans and their families in that area.
Well, look, I'm proud that you guys are from the county, and I'm proud that you're delivering these services to a group of individuals who have given more than their time, their commitment, and come back and they keep our shores safe. And we've got you people being advocates. And as you mentioned before, Bruce, you and I have become friends with work through veterans organizations. You know, we were over on Veterans Day in Pine Grove, and I know that you had a big role with the AMVETS, and I'm sure you continue to be active in that organization. But now we're taking it to a different level. I mean, it's terrific to have the chairman here, and you as the state adjunct are going to be more feet on the ground for the great work that you're doing.
Well, I want to thank you again for the plug there. Yeah, we're really looking forward to getting out there, not just for Iraqi veterans or the Afghan veterans, but we're also looking at the World War II veterans that is getting older, they're getting ill, things change in their life from time to time, the family that's there after the veteran passes. There are many areas that we need to talk to our veterans, and a lot of veterans may feel that, well, maybe I really don't deserve it. But you know, when we talk about that 1% that has put that uniform on at one time in their life, you know, we hear a lot about 1% all over the media. Let's talk about that 1%, the veteran that did his service for his country. And what we're there to do is to help that Iraqi veteran transition somewhat, because our veterans that are coming in from active duty, a lot of them are guardsmen. As you know, we have, I think there's like 1,800 guardsmen that are deployed right now in Kuwait through the National Guard. And we have all these people that are coming back, and you know, they go to a post and they're there for maybe 3 weeks, Mike, and all of a sudden they're back in civilian life. Now we've got to deal with multiple deployments that these young men and young women have had, and we'll talk a little bit more about women as we go on. But Carmen is very instrumental. One of the things that the DAV is very instrumental in is the VAN program, and if I get Carmen to talk a little bit about the VAN program with you, that'd be great.
Well, and I do want to talk to the chairman. You've been in this organization a long time. How long have you served in the DAV, Carmen?
At the department, about 20 years.
Okay, 20 years. And in that time, you've worn a lot of different hats. And right now, you're wearing a lot of hats. Yeah. You were telling me about it briefly, and believe me, I'm not sure I've got the checklist down. But as chairman and some other responsibilities in the organization, tell me a little bit about your history there.
And you mean as far as the DAV?
Sure, yeah.
Well, many years back, I went up to Mansfield on one different item for another organization, and I wanted to know where there was a restaurant. And this fellow says, "Oh, there's one down the street." I said, "Would you mind coming down for a cup of coffee? Tell me about this place." And I asked him if he was a disabled veteran. He said, "Well, I was wounded." He says, "Well, what's your problem?" He told me his problem. And I said, "Well, what's your compensation?" He said, "What are you talking about?" I says, "Well, did you ever file for compensation?" He says, "I don't know what you're talking about." And I said, and explained everything what a D-service officer does. And I says, "Well, after this meeting tonight, if you can meet me," I says, I'll fill your paperwork out for you." And he says, "All right." He said, "I'll meet you in that building, and he brought 25 people down from the area. He called all his buddies.
So the
I
message.
stayed there for 2 days filling out paperwork. They didn't even know where the VA hospital was, nor a state home. And I says, boy, this is something. So I came back, I wrote up a big article. I went to the Work Council and says, I'd like to present this so we can get maybe the state to give us some funding. Because the DAV doesn't give any funding for us. We have service officers, they're national service officers. We don't have any state officers. And I said, this would be good if we can get some money from the state. And they all backed me up and went, and we went to the governor, and there was 35 people sat around the table, and the governor asked me questions for 45 minutes, and I answered all his questions, and he came down and he says, you can get the legislators to sign it. He says, I'll sign it. And that's how we got their outreach program going. And he gave each one of us for that first year, I got $46,000 just to start the program. And we've been out all over the place. Now we have, I started off with 4 service officers that I've trained. I also trained them. And they're in Pittsburgh, they're in Butler, they're in Erie, they're in Philadelphia, and Wilkes-Barre.
So you were instrumental in getting funding for the program originally from the state,
Right.
and now you're the mentor to people like Bruce to make sure that this effort continues.
I'm a World War II vet. Somebody's got to start taking this thing over. You know, I'm not no young kid anymore, so I can do a lot, but I want to pass it on so other people can pick this up and run with it.
The organization's been around for an awful long time, since 1920.
Right, correct.
Obviously, that's a long time. You haven't been around that long.
No.
But like you said, you need more boots on the ground to make sure that people are getting the message, and veterans are understanding that oftentimes there's benefits out there that they're just not aware of.
Correct. I've found that over the years I've got a lot of Vietnam veterans who had a stigma that was made by the media that really got them off course. And now that they're getting older, I've got an awful lot of them. I must have got at least $6-7 million just to helping Vietnam veterans out.
That's wonderful. Now we talked about this, that it's helping people get their benefits, but Bruce also mentioned a van program, and you were instrumental, and you were the head of that program for some period of time.
Well, no, we had a fellow by the name of Tom McDowell, who he did like I did. He went to the legislators, and then I got with him, and then he passed away, and I followed through with it, again, with the Work Council. So what we do is discuss various things that we have to come up with. So we now are getting, we got originally $250,000 is what the governor gave us, and then he gave us another $100,000, which gave us $350,000. The van program, when originally started, these vans were running around $22,000 each. We have 78,000 of them out in the road in Pennsylvania. And we travel between 1,600,000 miles a year with at least 1,000 volunteers, the drivers. And we transport approximately 60 to 65,000 veterans to and from their hospitals, from their homes to the hospital and return. We purchased vans for action in Erie. The van program runs from Erie to Pittsburgh because that's where they need a lot of veterans need help in Pittsburgh, and they don't have the facilities in the hospital in Erie or Butler, so they get them to Pittsburgh. And they run every year 50,000 miles on a van every year.
Wow.
One van. And there's 2 vans every day that goes back to going down to Pittsburgh.
An important service. You know, we were talking a little bit about Schuylkill County and the western part of Schuylkill County earlier, Bruce, and we mentioned the fact that there's a belief that we've got veterans that are being underserved by this program, and that's why we're happy that you're involved right now.
That's what we're
With
doing.
the chairman being from Schuylkill County and you being from the western part of Schuylkill County, I'm sure that we're going to provide the service that is very important. Can you tell me a little bit about your thoughts on serving this group of people that may have been underserved to this point in time?
What we'd really like to do, Mike, is to get out there talk to the veteran themselves or the spouse of a veteran that may have been there that may be eligible for benefits herself, or one of the children of one of those veterans, that we can talk to these folks, sit down with them, go over everything that we need to go over with them. In other words, when you come in to see us, if we get the office up in the Higgins area like we're talking about, when we come into Higgins, we would be in there maybe one day a week. And just to be able to talk to veterans, get the process started for that veteran or a family member. There may be a veteran in the area, such as aid and assistance may be needed for that veteran that is housebound. And the family is always looking for help. Well, if they're a veteran and it's somewhat service-connected, maybe we can get them aid and attendance. There are veterans throughout the entire county area. I know I was over at the vets in Pine Grove the other day. We had breakfast in there, and I was just talking to a few of them, and within about 5 minutes, there's like 5 or 6 veterans that start coming around, and they want to talk about these things. And so if we can get that veteran service officer in there, that would be our service officer in there to get them started on the process. Things will go a lot better for that veteran. We may have a veteran that has just come back from overseas and needs rehabilitative services, doesn't know how to go about getting that. We may have a veteran that needs help with a car. And I know, Carmen, you had a car, I guess it was after you came back from the war and you were wounded, and there was a car that was available for you. And there are all kinds of things. What we like to think about or talk about really is that we focus on not our disabilities, but what those abilities are that a veteran can offer to the community.
The program makes perfect sense to me. The other thing that makes sense to me is that all of your service officers are disabled veterans themselves.
Yeah.
You got your disability many moons ago,
Yeah.
but still capable to get around. Now, you told me that you travel to Harrisburg right now from Schuylkill County 2-3 times a week. So you're on the road. You put a lot of miles on, Carmen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How many service officers do you have in the program?
We have 4, and I just hired 3 more. So we have 7 because we got that $700,000 that they got from Scotland School that was given. That $700,000 portion was given to various organizations, the VFW, American Legion, and AMVETS, and I'm not sure who the rest of them are, but 4 of them got $181,000 each. So I sent a letter to Governor Gould, General Gould, how I'd like to use my funding, and he okayed me to do that. So now I'm purchasing computers and whatever's necessary in order to get people out on the road. And I hired a from Pittsburgh to go to various areas in Pittsburgh. I hired one from Erie that'll be going down around in the middle of the state to start doing work in there for outreach. And that'll be all outreach. They're not in the hospital or nowhere else, and work out of their homes.
You seem to be a numbers guy. Tell me, how many disabled American veterans do we have in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania
1
right
million.
now?
There's 999,000, but 1 million
Yeah.
is what we have.
I see. And how about in the county? How about in Schuylkill County? And the northern Berks County area?
I have all those statistics. I should have brought a paper with me. I have the whole state. I have whatever the population and the population of veterans and the disabled. I have the whole ball of wax.
I can tell you that I'm happy for my new role. One of my committee assignments for this term is to be on the Veteran Affairs and Emergency Service Preparedness Committee. It's something that I lobbied to get on. I'm fortunate enough to be there. You know, I can tell you that our emergency responders do great work within the county, and I'm happy to be serving them as well as veterans, and again, particularly the people that have paid the sacrifice, you know, and gotten in harm's way and become disabled. Now, to be a disabled veteran, when I was reading a little bit, you had to be disabled during wartime. Is that correct? What's the criteria for that, Bruce?
Well, not necessarily disabled during wartime, but disabled during your service, during the service itself. In other words, you may have been training to go somewhere, and for some unknown reason, you were in a truck accident, and you're messed up for the rest of your life. So there's a disability that can come from there. Most of us think of disabled veterans as that veteran that was wounded during war, or like in my case, some people have what we call PTSD. PTSD is something, post-traumatic stress, that is affecting every combat veteran. You know, we didn't want to talk about it years ago. We did not want to talk about that, and now is a good time to talk about that. And I know I've had 2 suicides from my platoon from the first deployment when I was overseas. One was from Schuylkill County, and combat is unique, and the experience that each person has is unique in itself there. We never know where our rubber band is that it's going to break, and we see different areas where it becomes at different points in someone's life. It is just different. So we want to educate the public on that, and we also want to talk about women's issues too.
Let's take a quick break. Legislative report will return in just a moment.
Did you know that Violet Oakley was the first female artist to receive a large commission for artwork done in a United States Capitol building? In 1902, Joseph Houston, designer and architect for the 3rd Harrisburg Capitol building, commissioned Violet Oakley to paint murals for the governor's reception room. He believed that Oakley's contribution would add interest to the building and act as an encouragement of women of the state. Prior to beginning her work for the Capitol, Oakley set out to England to conduct research for her murals. Upon return, she decided to center her artwork on William Penn and the founding of Pennsylvania. Oakley made sure that Penn's ideals of justice and peace could be seen throughout her work. In 1906, she completed 13 murals titled The Founding of the State of Liberty Spiritual, and was placed in sequential order around the governor's reception room. These murals were some of the first to be installed in the Capitol. When Edwin Austin Abbey, another artist for the Capitol, died in 1911, Oakley was offered another opportunity to create murals for the unfinished Senate and Supreme Court chambers. Her work on the Senate murals, including International Understanding, was completed by 1919. Oakley then completed the Supreme Court murals, including the Divine Law, by 1927. Oakley is said to be the principal artist for the Capitol, with a total of 43 murals on display. She remains one of the greatest muralists in the United States. Now you know.
Welcome back to the program. I'm State Representative Mike Tobash. Today's program focuses on services available to our American heroes, our veterans who have been disabled while serving their country. My guests today are from the American Disabled Veterans Organization, and I welcome you again, Bruce and Carmen. Before we broke, we started to talk a little bit about women in the military and the tremendous need, the growth of the need for services to women who are veterans. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
When we look at that, Mike, and we look at women in the military, we go back to 1972 when I started, that was before a lot of people were born. I think I'm not quite as old as Carmen, but we're in there. But in 1972, when the volunteer army came into existence, or the volunteer service came into existence, we knew that we were going to need people to come into that area, because there just wasn't going to be enough men that were going to volunteer. I can tell you on my last deployment, when I went overseas, I had 18 women in our platoon. Those 18, they were truck drivers, and they were in firefights just like everyone else. But when you actually think about it, about a third of our force is female right now. So there's a third of the force out there that the veterans organization, or Veterans Department of Veterans Affairs, never even dealt with before, because there were very few that were in the service at that time. My wife was one of the original WACs. She was a WAC at one time. But my other daughter is a veteran, a combat veteran. A third of those people, a third of our veterans that served overseas and are serving right now are women. So there are unique issues for women themselves. As a matter of fact, the Department of Veteran Affairs is looking to get women to come in and talk to us. One of the sad statistics that we know is that 1 in 6 women has been sexually assaulted while in the service. Now, we got to get to talk to those folks, and because there's issues that are there. but there are other women's health issues that they need. And we have special programs in the veterans, down at the veterans hospitals, that will take care of those issues. And we're trying to get more of an outreach to our women veterans. Actually, a third of our members should be women veterans, and it just seems like it's harder and harder to get them. They are coming up, and they are taking that role. And we hear, what are the other services that we offer, to our veterans throughout the area? There might be a veteran out there that is looking to get a home, and I want to get a home loan. Well, we can help them get that certificate so they can go to the bank and get that home loan. Or I may need some rehabilitative services for a job. We can help them do that too. The big thing, and I used to love this thing, your best bet is to hire a vet, and that even goes through today. I mean, we look at our veterans, these are our number one people that are in this country. They've served, and all they're looking for is not a handout, but a chance. And the DAV is there to help them get that chance, and we can go on. There may be a veteran that needs a ride to the hospital. Our VANS program takes care of that. There may be a veteran that, they need a little bit of help at home, just getting around. But the other thing we offer is that fellowship by getting together and talking about veterans issues, and then being able to come and talk to our representatives, just like yourself.
We just passed a piece of legislation in the House, and I know that you and I have spoken about this before, but it's to encourage employers to hire veterans. Look, I mean, you've got the qualification of having served our country, and I can't help but believe that the best employers have the discipline that's been given to them, that they've earned through service to our country. So, we've passed that piece of legislation. We hope it gets to the Senate and the governor signs it, because we want to do everything we can to make sure that we are helping people get back into the flow after they've been overseas or whatever their tour of duty has been. And as you mentioned here, look, we've got a growing segment. I'm sure that a growing segment of the work that you do is going to involve women and females that have served in the military, because those statistics are bearing that out. Carmen, you mentioned that you're going to be in front of the Veteran Affairs Committee in a few weeks here, and you're going to give a report to the committee. I'm going to be anxious to hear that. Can you give us any highlights before that hearing? What do you have to report from the committee?
Well, it's going to be how many vans we have, how much the vans cost, how much we pay each year, and what's the whole program. In other words, we have hospital service coordinators whom we pay. They're volunteers, and to the point where they're there 5 days a week, and we only pay them $18,000 a year, because we just don't have the funding. And between the van program and the HSCs that help get the veterans in the vans to and from the hospital is over $500,000 a year.
Wow. So you've been in the program for 20 years. Tell me about some of the biggest success that you've seen in the program over that period of time.
Well, I was with other organizations too. At the same time I've been with him, but I backed away from the other ones. This one here, the DAV is strictly a service organization. Now, we're all service organizations, but we put more emphasis on the DAV as far as helping veterans than probably anyone else. We don't have as many committees for other outlets other than to serve veterans.
So you might say that one of the huge benefits of the program is that you actually have service officers that are helping veterans on a daily. There's not a whole lot of paperwork involved. You're going to do the job that you need to do to make sure that the veteran receives the benefits that they're entitled to.
What we do is we fill out the papers, and then we adjudicate the case where necessary. The government's on that side of the table, we're on this side of the table. And depending on how well educated, it takes 5 years to be a good service officer. Mm-hmm. And 3 you can get by with, but 5, before you can start adjudicating across that table, you have to know the CFR 38, which is all government regulations. And I've already corrected the people sitting across the table. They say one thing and I open the book and said it's right there, and and they, okay, and it's all over.
You're knowledgeable advocates for these veterans. So you got a lot of learning to do, Bruce.
Absolutely. But I have a great mentor here, And I can remember one of the first times I met Carmen was coming back when I came back from overseas, and I went to a district meeting with another organization. And ever since then, we've been talking and working. And as you know, my passion, I have a passion for veterans. I really believe in our veterans, what they've done, because it takes a lot to raise that right hand and say, I do solemnly swear, and you're going to take that oath seriously. Now that they've taken that oath, they've done their service, we've come home, I just don't want to see our veterans be lessened or get less of the pie than what they deserve. You know, we're not talking about billions of dollars, you know. We're talking about one family at a time, helping that family or that veteran. I know we have a homeless veteran stand down coming up on the 22nd through the 24th of February that's going to be taking place down at the HMP, and we're going to have a service officer there too at that location. So our service officers are our backbone, our members are our backbone actually, but that service officer is that person that's going to make that contact, that initial contact with that family. But if we can't get out there and meet the people, and this is where the outreach comes in that we're talking about, we need that outreach. And I can't thank you enough for getting us into that Higgins area and all of the areas that we have to bring this outreach program to all veterans, not just the Iraqi Afghanistan veteran, but our World War II veterans, our Korean War veterans, like we did over the last year at Veterans Day. When you were there, that was the first time we had, Korean War veterans. It was the first. I know a couple of them came up to you and said, "This is the first time I've ever been recognized as a Korean War veteran."
It was a wonderful program, and I really appreciate the fact that you put it on. I mean, you're involved in that organization. It's a wonderful organization, and now at the DAV, I'm so happy that if we can say that we were underserved before, that we're going to be taking care of that. That this group of veterans is certainly going to have the service that they deserve within Schuylkill County and this northern Berks County area. And we're committed to making sure that we get that office established in the western part of the county, and that veterans understand the resource that they have with the chairman and with your new role. So I really appreciate you being here today. We look forward to working with you hand in hand. We get a lot of requests that come through our office, and it's good to be able to turn to friends and neighbors to make sure that people are being taken care of.
Thank you.
We also want, and there's little areas out there, Tremont and Valley View and what have you, those mayors can also, I had them let the veterans know that I was coming out there one time.
It's and it's a great point. It's an important point that we coordinate with our local elected officials and at the state level and at the federal level. And again, I think that that's one of the values of this program, being able to be an advocate for the veteran and see where the resources are and make sure that they're being made available.
These little towns, the people don't, them little towns, the government won't tell you nothing. I don't care if it's state or federal. You come out of that service, you got a problem, the government's not going to tell you how to do it. You got to come to us.
And that's why we're happy that we have you.
Yeah, and,
so again, I thank you very much for being here today. And we were going to keep spreading the word, and like I said, we're going to make sure that this group is certainly not underserved. Bruce, you know that you've got my commitment to anything that I can do to help. Carmen, it's been a pleasure talking with you, and it's going to be great to get to know you.
There's one other item is when veterans fill out papers and they don't go to a service organization and they get 10 or 20% disability, you bring them and see us, and I'll guarantee you we'll get them double that.
Okay, let me tell you, I can understand the paperwork mountain that there is with getting some of these things done. So with you guys as advocates, I'm sure that we're going to be able to manage through it. So thank you very much for being here. That's all the time we have for today's program. I'm State Representative Mike Tobash. If you have questions about any state matters, please feel free to contact me at my local office or through my website. That information will be shown in a moment. Thanks for watching, and please join me next time for another edition of Legislative Report. Thank you.